and welcome to the Tao of Our Understanding Recovery Podcast. In this podcast, we discuss mystical works of literature and how they relate to recovery. We hope you enjoy today's podcast episode.
Hey guys, Buddy C, welcome to the Tao of Our Understanding Recovery Podcast. Today we have Amy, Marla, Craig, and Dan. Kate says she'll be here a little late. Guys, I apologize. We're going to talk about cracking the safe today. I thought Sensei was going to be here. He had emailed me that he was not going to be able to make it, and I did not see the email. It's my apologies. I sprung this on you guys at the last minute. And it is a horrendous story to spring on at the last minute, too. So maybe that's even better. Maybe that's the way that you need to look at a story like this, is the last minute, because maybe then we'll be empty enough and without our own ideas that we may be able to see something, because that's the only way I'm going to see much out of this. I've got one idea, and that's about it. So hopefully we can be open to see something out of this. Maybe not. We'll just had an interesting thing, Dan. Let's talk about for a minute while we're waiting on Kate about the email that you were sent about Taoist prayers. You emailed me and you said, what would be a Taoist prayer? What would a Taoist pray? What would a Taoist prayer look like? And I was like, I hadn't really thought of that. What would y'all think a Taoist prayer would look like?
If you're not asking for something, what are you
praying about if you're not asking? Yeah. Right, exactly, Marla.
Praying about.
Yeah, so I guess it would go back to what prayer is. Is prayer asking for things? If it is, would a Taoist ask for anything?
Just to be a sage.
Or would a Taoist even ask for that?
Probably not. No, he'd just become one.
Would it not be more of a gratitude? Would it not be most seeking gratitude? Yeah. Or giving gratitude? So just letting go. How would you pray to let go? Without asking?
Or like that Stephen Mitchell talked about, that Soto, the Buddhist, told the individual that was having difficulty with their having peace in their life. She told them, everything that happens every day, say, thank you for everything. I have no complaint whatsoever.
That reminds me, I had a sponsee text me 2 weeks ago. It was like, page 84, anger. It's like, what's up? I've nothing to complain about. I was like, okay, it's worked then. He was upset the fact that nothing that was upsetting him. He thought there was something wrong.
What a great place to be.
Okay, so I have a couple thoughts that I
can
share. I have two thoughts. One is that I feel like, okay, so when we ask, like, what's prayer and meditation is listening, prayer is talking, right? And so if I put it in that sense, then I pray to God, pray to the Tao, like, all the time. When I ask the higher power, the sage, the Tao, like, please show me something different, or please help me see this a different way, or please help me to accept that which already is, help me to get to my original nature, that stuff. I feel like that's okay. And I'm comfortable with basically, like, like the third step prayer, seventh step prayer. I feel like that's all in line with my practice. Now, whether that's Taoist per se or not, I don't know. And then the other thing that I had, that I was thinking about, I was like, well, Taoism is what, like 4,000, 5,000, maybe? It's like a lot. It's really old. There's got to be some prayers out there from, like, ancient Chinese prayers or, something like that. So those were the two things that I was kind of thinking about in response to to that question.
So you think there's got to be some type of prayer because it's been around for so long? There must be some kind of a practice of prayer?
Yeah, so I feel like, okay, so there's Taoism, which is like the series of like rituals and practices and ranks and all that other, like the religion of Taoism, like, you know, like that's been handed down from generation to generation. Like there's got to be something that they do, right? But as like practitioners and as students of the Tao, like I don't know that we necessarily have to just subscribe to, you know, the rituals and everything that that traditional Taoists do. You know what I mean?
We've talked about the Taoist Farmer many times.
Yeah.
Are you familiar? We've talked about that since you've been around, right, Amy? His horse ran away on his farm, and we haven't. Okay, I'll tell it real quick.
Tell it real quick.
His horse ran away, and his neighbors said, "Isn't it awful your horse ran away?" He said, "Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. This is a horse he used for his farm." And then the horse came back a few days later with 5 wild horses. And then the neighbors again, "Isn't it great your horse came back with all these wild horses? Now you're rich. You have all these extra horses." His answer was the same. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. He just doesn't know. Then his son was out breaking the wild horses and broke his leg and couldn't help on the farm. And his neighbors again, "Isn't it awful your son broke his leg, training those horses?" Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. Then the army came around taking all the young men to fight in a war that they'd never returned from. His son didn't have to go because his leg was broke. Then the neighbors again, same deal. "Isn't it great your son's leg was broke?" Blah, 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 And he said, maybe it is, maybe it isn't. So what prayer do you think the Taoist farmer would pray? Would he pray anything other than thank you for everything?
Maybe he would, maybe he wouldn't.
That'd be a smart ass answer.
There we go, Craig. Yeah, that's a good one, Craig. Good answer. Really, isn't that not the case, though?
Yeah, so
it really is all about acceptance.
Sorry, what were you guys going to say?
Let's say he does not have to pray for anything because he's got it all.
Right. So if we're looking at the Vinegar Taster's point of view, from Lao Tzu, basically saying, "Hey, this is exactly the way it's supposed to be. Let me just participate and enjoy it." Mm-hmm. Right. So yeah. I see your point, buddy. Like in terms of, well, there is nothing to do, as you said before. There's nothing to accomplish. There's
Thank
nothing
you for everything.
Achieve. Right. All right. Well, I'm just not there yet.
I think a minute ago, Dan, you said that prayer was talking, right? Meditation is listening and prayer is talking. Yes. And I like that word instead of prayer being a petition asking for something. I prefer it. For me, where I am in my journey is literally just a conversation. It's not really me saying, gimme, gimme, gimme anymore, where it used to be. It is more of like Craig said, and thank you for even the struggles that I go through, because I know there are teachable moments. It may not feel like it right now, but thank you in advance for what I'm going to learn from this experience.
Yeah. Yeah. And you know what? There's certain times where I sit there and I journal just to, like I've done like the conversations with God thing, right? Where you're writing and then you get a divine response, or you channel or something like that. So I think in that sense, that's having that conversation, like you said, Amy.
Do y'all see it moving more from, when I first started, it was all prayer and no meditation. And it moving from a lot of prayer and no meditation to a lot of meditation and no prayer, very little talking and a lot of listening. Do y'all see that too? For me, that seems to be the direction. Yeah.
Yeah.
And taking those labels off of circumstances so that they just are, not making them good so that I create bad, and not making them bad so I'm looking for something good. Because when I make one, I'm automatically starting to look for the opposite.
Yeah.
Like another shoe, when it can be so good, I'm like, oh, this is good. It can't stay this good. Something's got to happen to make this bad.
I can relate.
Yeah. Yeah.
But when I do that, I steal the joy, any bit of joy that I might be able to experience in the moment. So again, for me, where I am in my journey, I would much rather enjoy this moment. I mean, it takes me less time to get back into the moment than it used to. Mm-hmm. And absolutely, I used to pray, forgive me out of this situation, or can I get this, or please do that, or please do that. And it was really more me demanding that my needs get met instead of being, there's that word, acceptance again, being an acceptance of where I am as exactly where I need to be.
You know, if I can accept where I'm at and find some gratitude in what's going on, I can make most situations, I don't say enjoyable, but at least much more tolerable and somewhat enjoyable than what they used to be. You know, a bad situation. Marla, you're grinning.
You know, I was only thinking just of this particular incident that happened today. And my car's usually parked in the garage. But my husband's been using the garage to work out in. So he parks my car outside, and it frosted today because it was freezing ass today. And I'm walking downstairs. I see this frost all over my car, and I start getting really mad. And in like a nanosecond, like mad because your car needs to be defrosted for a minute. You have a car. You know, it quickly came to a point of gratitude today. So that's something that happened in real life to me. And it happens often.
But isn't that idea, though, of just finding gratitude in everything rather than, you know, looking half full and finding that gratitude in things rather than finding what I don't like about something?
I have a car.
Yeah.
It's great. But it's turning it around.
It's that shift from pessimism into optimism, right? Yeah. There can be one line on the glass and I can see it as half empty, or I can see it as half full. And now I'm more of a half full kind of chick than I used to be.
Before we get
more of, not all the time.
Well, no, me too. It's gradual. It's been progressive, though. That I've come to that same conclusion.
Kate, we were having a conversation about prayer, waiting on you to get here so we could start the story, because none of us have a clue as to what this story is about. We're hoping you have it.
I don't know. This story, I have no idea. I don't know what it's talking about.
Let me run something else by y'all that I was thinking about this week that has to do with, we were talking, Kate, about what a Taoist prayer would look like. And we concluded that a Taoist would pray for nothing because a Taoist would be accepting of things being exactly like they're supposed to be, I think, is where we're at.
Right.
And I was thinking about step 11, where it says praying only for the knowledge of his will for us and the power to carry that out. I used to read that, and I don't know why. For me, I would, sometimes I read things and I flip it around in my head and think it means something different than the words that are said. And I thought that meant that I prayed for the will of God in my life. That's just how I mentally translated this, that I prayed that I would see, that I would have the will of God in my life. And then when I got to look at it this week, I said, it just says pray for the knowledge of his will. Like as if maybe his will is happening the entire time. I just can't see it. Like it's not that I need to pray that his will be done in my life. Maybe his will is being done in my life. And what I need to do is become spiritually aware enough that I can see what's going on. I don't know. That was something new this week. I don't know if that's
No, that's dope. I kind of like have experienced that, right? It's like, hey, wait a minute, God moment here, God moment there. I'm having God moments all the time. Wait a minute. I've been having them the whole time. I'm just more aware of them now, right? Like,
yeah. That's
yeah,
what
I
I'm
can relate
thinking,
to that.
man. Yeah. Yeah.
Interesting. Okay, that takes that a little deeper, because I was like, oh man, I could pray for all this stuff, just knowledge of his will. That's boring, right?
Yeah. But is that not close to what a Taoist might pray if they were going to pray anything?
You know,
Would they be more aware of seeing acceptance in all things?
I don't like your answer, but I'm good with it.
I don't know. I don't know. But I think that fits.
No, like there's nothing for me to, I mean, it's like, it makes sense, right? Like the vinegar is it tastes the way it needs to taste. That's the way it is, right? And just being okay and satisfied with that. Like,
nothing to complain about, nothing to fight.
Yeah. There's
Thank
nothing
you
I can
for
say
everything.
to counter that.
Yeah.
Or augment it.
Thanks for everything. I have no complaint whatsoever. Our story for today, cracking the safe. Who would like to read? Would someone read this for us, please?
I was hoping we'd forgot about it.
Let's go through it and see what happens. I'm sure Kate's going to enlighten us. She always does.
I'll be happy to read.
Thanks, Amy.
I'll give it a whirl anyway. Cracking the safe. For security against robbers who snatch purses, rifle luggage, and crack safes, one must fasten all property with ropes, lock it up with locks, bolt it with bolts. This, for property owners, is elementary good sense. But when a strong thief comes along, he picks up the whole lot, puts it on his back, and goes on his way with only one fear: that ropes, locks, and bolts may give way. Thus, what the world calls good business is only a way to gather up the loot, pack it, make it secure in one convenient load for the more enterprising thieves. Who is there, among those called smart, who does not spend his time amassing loot for a bigger robber than himself? In the land of Kai, from village to village, you could hear cocks crowing, dogs barking, fishermen cast their nets, plowmen plowed the wide fields. Everything was neatly marked out by boundary lines. For 500 square miles, there were temples for ancestors, altars for field gods and corn spirits. Every canton, county, and district was run according to the laws and statutes, until one morning the Attorney General, Tian Kangzu, did away with the king and took over the whole state. Was he content to steal the land? No. He also took over the laws and statutes at the same time, and all the lawyers with them, not to mention the police. They all formed part of the same package. Of course, people called Kangzu a robber, but they left him alone to live as happy as the patriarchs. No small state would say a word against him. No large state would make a move in his direction. So for 12 generations, the state of Kai belonged to his family. No one interfered with his inalienable rights. The invention of weights and measures makes robbery easier. Signing contracts, settling seals, makes robbery more sure. Teaching love and duty provides a fitting language with which to prove that robbery is really for the general good. A poor man must swing for stealing a belt buckle, but if a rich man steals a whole state, he is acclaimed as Statesman of the Year. Hence, if you want to hear the very best speeches on love, duty, justice, etc., listen to statesmen. But when the creek dries up, nothing grows in the valley. When the mound is leveled, the hollow next to it is filled. And when the statesmen and lawyers and preachers of duty disappear, there are no more robberies either, and the world is at peace. Moral: The more you pile up ethical principles and duties and obligations to bring everyone in line, the more you gather loot for a thief like Kang. By ethical argument and moral principle, the greatest crimes are eventually shown to have been necessary and, in fact, to signal benefit to mankind.
Comments?
I think the more complicated we make things, the easier it is to screw them up, which doesn't exactly make sense now that I said it out loud.
No, it does make sense. No, it does. The more shit you have, the more shit you have to be worried about, and you have to lock it up. And
oh, thanks, Marla.
And I think the more complicated they're making it, the more chance other people are having to kind of twist it around and take advantage of it.
yeah,
Right? Because all these laws and the statesmen and all of these different rules that they've put in place because they think they're good, these statesmen are coming in and they can twist them around and pretend that they're doing a good thing when they're doing a bad thing.
There's a proverb that says that tall walls invite thieves because they know there's something behind the wall, or you wouldn't have the wall there to protect it.
logical.
I've had employees before that I knew were kind of walking the line, but I didn't ask a lot of questions because they were making me money. I don't know if that has something kind of the same kind of thought process, maybe. I don't know. I didn't hold them to the same standard I held other employees because they were making me a lot more money than the other employees. So I just let things slide that I wouldn't let slide with other people.
Mm-hmm.
Little things, nothing major, but, little stuff. Let them park where I wouldn't let others park, things like that. Just made it convenient for them. It's interesting in the first one, the actual ways that they protected their valuables was used to steal their valuables. The ropes and locks and bolts, the strength of their ropes and locks and bolts was what allowed their valuables to be stolen, if I'm reading that correctly.
Mm-hmm.
Dan?
I want to share something. Okay, so I knew I recognized this story, and I saw it paired up with a verse of the Tao Te Ching.
Cool.
Yeah. So this is Lin Yutang's translation, right? And he's got the safecracker story as correlated to verse 19. Yeah. Do you mind if I read it?
No, please.
Okay.
Please.
All right. So here's the Lin Yutang translation. He says, "Banish wisdom, discard knowledge, and the people shall profit 100-fold. Banish humanity, discard justice, and the people shall recover love of their kin. Banish cunning, discard utility, and the thieves and brigands shall disappear. As these three touch the externals and are inadequate, the people have need of what they can depend upon. Reveal thy simple self, embrace thy original nature, check thy selfishness, and curtail thy desires." Which I feel like, Kate was saying in the very beginning. It was like, look, this is, there's material stuff that we're talking about, but also we're talking about, all right, so, he's like, banish wisdom and discard knowledge. Does that mean, on the face value, that's like, oh, how could we? That's like ridiculous. But I think what we're saying here is banish the importance that we place on knowledge and wisdom, right? So So we're talking about, when I make the ritual more important than the thing, when my prayers are just words, when my meditation is just me sitting there without the earnest intent for me to actually do something, then it becomes something hollow, not in a good hollow, right? In the bad hollow, like it loses its meaning and stuff like that. So I feel like, a little bit of context. I think that we're taught, this was like anti-Confucianism at the time, right? Which was like, don't place so much importance on all like the ritual and the rank and the achievements and the points and all that other kind of stuff. Just be, right? Kind of like what we were talking about in the very beginning, before we started the podcast. So I just wanted to point that, at least say, hey, cool, I found a cross reference.
Having a form of godliness, but denying the power thereof, right?
Yeah.
Having all the ritual without any content.
Yeah, because what's the ritual in this case? It's the safe.
Yeah.
It's the chains, right? Like literally, like, oh, I have to like act a certain way so that I'm good so I can get to heaven. No. I need to be in harmony with the Tao so that I can experience life as it is, and I can take in as much as I can so I can be that expression of the Tao right now, which is where divinity is, right?
I was thinking about freedom too, and how we desire to be free, and we think that we want to be free to be ourselves, but what I think we really want is freedom from ourselves.
Yeah.
Right?
It's back to the relieve me of the bondage of self.
Yes. It's not freedom to be me, it's freedom from me, right? That's what we're after. So the chains and all those things. Yeah, that's what I was thinking. And I've got that Bible, in Galatians about being free. We talked about that a few weeks ago, I think. Didn't we? Didn't we quote that on this a few weeks ago? Do you remember it, Marla?
Which one did we?
About freedom. I'll look it up again because it's really applicable to, I think, to what we're talking about here. It's okay to quote Bible on the Tao podcast. I think it is. Let me find it here. It is absolutely clear that God has called you to a free life. Just make sure that you don't use this freedom as an excuse to do whatever you want to do and destroy your freedom. So we destroy our freedom by doing whatever we want to do. Use your freedom to serve one another in love. That's how freedom grows. For everything we know about God's word summed up in a single sentence, love others as you love yourself. That's an act of true freedom. So I thought, so the freedom is not, I destroyed my freedom by doing what I want to do. The freedom is so that I don't have to do what I want to do. So I thought that kind of paralleled this idea that, that we're so wrapped up in our things, maybe sometimes that's Galatians 5:13 through 15 in the Message version, if anybody wants to reference that. But yeah, it's freedom from us. So as long as we're concerned about keeping all of our things so closely, that's self, I think, a lot of times. Or our things, whatever, and then we're stuck being so consumed with self in some way that being consumed with self is what actually traps us. That's our ropes and locks and bolts.
It's our burden as human beings, is to have an
Yes.
ego. I'm coming back in my next life as an American dog. So treated so well.
I don't want you to be one of those on the pictures, Marla, that try to get us to send money at Christmas.
No, I'm with you, Marla. I'll come back as one of my dogs for sure. I was thinking when you were talking about the freedom, I was thinking about how these ropes and locks and chains, whatever, all it talks about, that could have been a symbol of our disease and our addiction, and how that just weighted us down, and then it made it easier for us to be swept away into that world of, our soul to be robbed, really, because we were so tethered to our substance or whatever.
I was thinking about,
Go ahead.
I'm sorry, I interrupted you.
Go ahead.
I was thinking about fear too, and how a lot of times we have so much fear about losing something we have or getting something we want, that actual fear of losing keeps us trapped and not, it's like desire. From Hawkins, we learned that the reason we don't have what we desire is because we desire it. That we're trapped by our desire, and that we stay in fear that we're not going to get something that we want, and it keeps us from getting what we want. It's like in business when we're afraid of losing what we have, so we won't take the risk that we know we need to take it to the next level. That fear keeps us trapped. And with other things too, if it's relationships that we're trapped in because we're afraid of losing this little thing that we have, so we won't move on, those any of those things that where we make any decision based on fear, then it keeps us trapped.
And I think we think we're protecting ourselves like this, we think we're protecting our money with the safe or with these rules. In the second story, we think we're protecting society and protecting the people, but we're actually keeping ourselves bound, but we're fooling ourselves.
Yeah. Very good, Kate. I knew you'd come through, Kate. How about in AA, where we let anyone, we have no rules, no one in charge. We have the traditions that where, let me look at one of let me see here which one I want to. A lot of the traditions help, like each group being autonomous except in matters affecting other groups or AA as a whole, where there's so much freedom in AA for groups to do anything that they want to do, that AA realized that if they made rules to make the group stay in line, that it was actually going to hurt the groups rather than help them. All those things that we learned from the traditions.
Rule 62.
Yes. Do not take yourself so damn seriously.
Yeah. That's actually what I thought. Look, he's got the coin. That's actually what I thought about when I read the last part was Rule 62. The more rules you have, and we need to be the least possible organization. That's another paradox.
Yeah, exactly. This is just stressing why the traditions work in AA too. I hadn't thought about that, but it does. And how we can apply the same principles to our own life. The more freedom that we give, serving one another in love, that allows our freedom to grow. And the more we operate on our fears, the more bound we are when we're thinking we're protecting ourselves, when really what we're doing is harming ourselves.
Yeah, because let's say that AA was like this institution, and you could be a president of AA, and you could do all this other stuff, right? And it was like rules and regulations, and I had all the money and all this other kind of stuff. Well, it would be like that kingdom that dude for 12 generations held, right? And people would covet it, and people would try to take it, and just like a whole bunch of mess, right? So yeah, I really that's dope, right? Like this story of the safecracker lines up so well with their traditions of AA, right? Like it's nice. It just nests so nicely.
I hadn't even thought about that either beforehand.
There's nothing to steal.
No, that's the thing. When you have nothing to protect, you don't have to work on all the fear of protecting, you know?
Like who wants AA?
Yeah, for real.
Bunch of
Yeah.
selfish alcoholics, right?
Yeah, I mean, I heard someone talk about a while back. They said, well, who's in charge? Who's running things? Nobody. How can no one be running this? And it works every time. Now sometimes it's aggravating, you know, when you have, 20 different people from 20 different backgrounds trying to make decisions and all have different ways that they think. But gosh, it ends up working out because everyone comes with a different level of acceptance and a level, and you realize that you're here for one common good, and your good is to help another alcoholic that's struggling. So as long as you keep that as your focus, just like here, it's talking about protecting your belongings. Is that really supposed to be our goal?
Are you talking about material belongings, or are we talking about spirituality?
This is what they were trying to, yeah. See, that's the thing,
Yeah, but I'd argue that if we're doing it right, we have no spiritual belongings because we give it all away.
Oh, good point.
Oh, okay.
Like the spirit of the story, right? Like there's nothing to steal.
Yeah.
Because that's the thing. Like, I become, I see truth. I see God moments. I pray for knowledge of God's will for me. Right. And I see that, oh, wait, it's just awareness that it's been there the whole time. It belongs to everybody. And the more I use it, the more I get it. The more I give it away, the more it returns. The more messy group conscious in which I participate, the more tolerant I become.
Yeah. And if I'm talking about belongings, like physical, like things, the less things I allow myself to have, really, the happier I am. The more things I accumulate, the more I'm obsessed with protecting those things, the more locks and ropes and things I put to protect those things. The next step they tell me is with money is I have one laptop that all I do with it is access my finances. I do nothing else on that laptop except my finances. And I'm like, I don't want to go to that level. Those things that it's ropes and locks and all these things that we're told to do in order to protect these. And I'm like, I don't know. So, it's just more of that. If we're not careful, we can get trapped in all of this fear and just get obsessed with it and waste all of our time on our ropes and locks and bolts. I don't know. It's the less I have, a lot of times, the easier my life is, not the opposite. There's something to be said for that. I don't know where that fits, but there's something to be said for that. Good conversation.
Yeah, I was just going to corroborate on that. I started doing some teaching in my life, and before, my wife was, I was like, oh, I need to do this in business and that and this and that, and my wife was like, Dan, you're a teacher, and I'm like, well, that sucks. I don't want to be poor, right? And then I started doing it, and I was like, this is what I've been looking for the whole time. Fuck the money. Like, yeah, I have, material needs, but man, they're so little. And, I don't want to say that, would a brand new car be cool? Yeah, sure. But man, it doesn't fulfill me like that. Like what I'm doing, like when I'm practicing my purpose, that's the real thing, man. I've had times in my life where I have like more money than I needed, and that I knew what to do with. And I had times where I'm like super poor and I need money, right? And now I have these times where I have enough to do what I need to do and to live and to take care of myself and be responsible financially, but not so much that I'm like blinded from the joy that I get from fulfilling my purpose.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Man, you cannot put a price on that, or I can't anyways. So it's priceless.
Not getting hooked by the fear that comes with trying to protect the things that you have.
Yeah.
I feel like that when I'm teaching yoga. It's like, wow, this is where I need to be. This is where I feel it, like where my heart is. It's, it's a joy. I just don't get the opportunity as much.
Well, it transcends like everything else. It's like, this is the missing piece, right? For me, anyways, it feels, I mean, there's a bunch of pieces, right? But like this piece like eluded me for a long time. It was like, what am I supposed to be doing? You're right.
Mm-hmm.
Must feel good.
It feels proper.
Proper.
Like this is correct.
This is how it should be.
That's teacher speak.
Okay.
Couldn't resist, Dan. Sorry.
It's cool.
Comments, guys. Comments. How about these other two stories? We got a lot out of the first one. Or these other stories. So in the second one, the guy took over the country and they tolerated him because he still managed the country well and the people prospered. Is that what that's saying?
The dictator? I read it as him being a dictator.
Yeah. But he must have taken care of the country or they would have rebelled, right?
I don't know.
I just assumed that.
I don't think the people in South Korea rebel too much.
I don't know. I was just trying to think if we've missed anything out of the rest of those stories because we got a lot out of the first one. I don't know. I don't see as much in the others. That's all I have.
That was a lot.
Well, I think we saw some good things there.
It's never a waste of time.
I think it always comes back to balance on where it talks about, I don't know which story this is or whatever, because I printed this thing out. So when it talks about the creek drying up and nothing grows in the mound, when the mound is leveled, the hollow next to it is filled. I think that's about balance.
Mm-hmm.
And then it goes on to bring everyone in line.
Could it be talking about that pendulum too? That when we create one extreme, we create its opposite.
Yep. Like
if we get a lot of riches, we're going to create thieves and robbers.
Yeah.
That idea of, it says, when the statesmen and when the statesmen and lawyers and preachers of duty disappear, there are no more robberies either, and the world is at peace. So it's learning to live above that pendulum in that place of serving one another in love, letting our freedom grow. Maybe just doing if we do the next right thing, we don't need preachers and laws and rules. And I think that's why we start living outside of organized religion, because we realize that that's not given that's that world of, duty, preachers of duty, of statesmen and lawyers, that whole idea of work harder and do better.
The bleeding deacons in AA, perhaps.
Mm-hmm. But if I work harder and do better, I'm creating lack too, because I'm using my effort to make the one, so I'm making the opposite of it. When really, if we just do the next right thing, We don't need all of that. And I'm not going to steal from somebody if I'm doing the next right thing.
I think the last couple of, the last bit, the greatest crimes are eventually shown to have been necessary and in fact a signal benefit to mankind. Bringing it back to recovery, it was absolutely necessary for me to become an alcoholic, an addict, to get to the solution that I have today. At first, I didn't look at all of that as beneficial or good in any kind of way. It sucked at the suckiest level. And now I can look back, and that greatest crime to myself, if you will, has been the best thing that ever happened to me, because here I am in a place of serenity that I never even thought was possible.
That's good, Amy. Thank you.
I was going to say, well put. Can totally relate.
Yeah. That's a great analogy for that. Wow, that's good. Thank you. I think we'll just end on that. If that's good with everyone. Sensei, I told him just to wait till the first of the month, and we'll just do verse 4 the first week of December. It's my fault that we weren't prepared for today. He had emailed me, so I apologize, guys, for giving you such a late notice on this. But it seemed to work out okay.
It worked out great.
Yeah.
As always. Spontaneous. Our minds were empty before we even came into the meeting.
It's amazing to me the times that happens. There's no way, because I came into this with nothing. I mean, I had the freedom thing. That was it. That's all I had. And I was like, I hope, we'll just see,
Dan, I wanted to share something with you. I've been listening to your podcast maybe 2 or 3 or 4 a week, and I feel like I know you. It's like, I invite Dan into my head all week long. It's really bizarre. Anyways, I've been touting it, so I've been telling a lot of people about it.
Thank you, Marla. Thank you. Okay, so it's a podcast called The Tao Te Ching for Everyday Living, and we go through each verse of the Tao Te Ching, one episode at a time. We read it, plain English explanation, read it again. Then I talk about, my experience with that particular verse for the week, and then a way that we can actually apply the verse, usually with some introspection, with some meditations, and then close it out with a final reading of the verse, and then a week to think about it. Anyways, that's my rhythm, and some folks might have a different rhythm when they listen, but it's been an awesome journey for me. One incredibly fulfilling that could never have happened without people listening to it. Otherwise, I wouldn't have done it. And it's pushed just me personally to, wow. That's all I can say is wow. It's awesome.
That's how we connected.
It comes through in your podcast, the way you feel about it. So I'm all over it.
Yeah. And that's how we connected. We connected through Dan's podcast.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Yeah. I'll tell you what, at the beginning, I was like, how do I monetize this and all this? It was a thought that I had, right? And everybody's looking at me like, damn, this is a lot of content. This is a lot of work. What are you going to, and I was like, you know what? Let me just let it ride and see what happens. And I'll tell you what, whether it's monetized or not ever, the amount of feedback that I've gotten, connected with so many awesome people over it. It's been a gift that's, I don't know, I maybe not in monetary ways, but in other ways, it's paid for itself like 1,000 times over. So, and I'm not even done with the whole thing. I just got done with writing up verse 64 this morning.
Cool.
Yeah.
Cool. Very cool. It's amazing.
Thank you, Marla. Thank you for listening to that.
Well, guys, anything else before we close?
Thank you.
Greg, I want you to be a little quieter next week, okay?
Yeah, you've talked way too much.
Yeah.
Stop talking. Enough. God, you're such egomaniacal. Anyways, good night. Good night, you guys. See you next week.
All right, guys. We'll see y'all next time.
Hello, this is Buddy C. I wanted to make you aware of several recovery-related resources that I've posted in the episode description. These resources include a list of recovery podcasts, a free sober meditation app, daily recovery email, shared Google recovery calendars. Hope you put some of these resources to use and have a great week.
Thank you for listening to the Tao of Our Understanding Recovery Podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, please share it with your friends in recovery.